Hi, everyone. This week, we're talking about getting along with people who have different views than us. So if you have kids going off to university, as I do, or friends, colleagues, or family members who think differently, you're going to want to stay until the end. I've got some great tips for us today. Welcome back to Torah in 10, Parshas Korach. I'm Jody Burkell, and this week, like every week, we bring Jewish wisdom to life, for our life. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss a thing. And I really do love to read your comments, so please let me know what you think about today's topic. Statistically speaking, Jews don't exactly excel in sports, but there is one that truly has a claim as being the Jewish national sport. It's not soccer, and it's not dreidel. The Jewish national sport is, drumroll, arguing. I mean, what other religion has a holy book of arguments? You may have heard of the Talmud. It's one of our sacred books, and it's made up of 63 volumes. It's huge. It's a collection of thousands upon thousands of arguments between rabbis. And then even more arguments by later rabbis about what the earlier rabbis were arguing about. Yep, that's what you study to be a rabbi, arguments. Tell me, what other religion learns through debating? Are there different types of arguments? You bet there are. Our sages say there's an argument for the sake of heaven, which will have a lasting constructive outcome. And any argument that is not for the sake of heaven will have the opposite results. What's the difference? According to our sages, an argument for the sake of heaven is an argument for the sake of truth. An argument not for the sake of heaven is an argument for the sake of victory and power. What sort of dispute is for the sake of heaven? We learn about the disputes of our sages, Hillel and Shammai, because their only interest was discovering the truth. And how did they achieve this? And this is where we can learn so much. Remember, I said those tips earlier? Well, here's tip number one. They realized that the best way to get to the truth is by respecting the other side, listening to their perspective, and then hashing it out together. And which argument was not for the sake of heaven? Our sages tell us the dispute of Korach and his entire community, which brings us to this week's Parsha. There's a revolt among the Jewish people led by Korach. He challenges Moses' leadership by saying, "You've gone too far. The whole community is holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Why do you elevate yourself above the assembly of the Lord?" Korach was accusing Moses of nepotism, that is, choosing his brother Aaron to carry out the priesthood. This exchange, says Rabbi Sack, is an example of an argument not for the sake of heaven, because Korach and his followers were not interested in the truth. They wanted to push their personal agendas and win the argument. For them, the other side was irrelevant, and so they weren't open to listening to a different point of view. In essence, there was no other side. This is hauntingly relevant to us today. In his book, Morality, Rabbi Sack speaks about what's going on in universities across Canada and the United States. He says that the real gift of a university education is the willingness to hear ideas quite different from those that you have heard up until now, the courage to take them seriously, not necessarily agreeing with them, but at least entering the mindset of those who think that way, and not feel threatened, but rather enlarged by them. This is what I felt during my own years at university. There were clear intellectual rules. People spoke civilly to one another. They argued rationally, and they listened respectfully. At the end of the day, we came out of that experience knowing, in Rabbi Sack's powerful words, that I could face all the challenges that adult life would throw at me without flinching and without fear. This is not what our kids are facing as they go off to university today, and it's frightening. We hear about microaggressions, safe space, a culture of victimhood, and the practice of non-platforming, which is the banning of certain speakers from university campuses on the grounds that they hold opinions that some groups of students disagree with. Rabbi Sack says, this is not only a clear and present danger to freedom of speech, but it's a betrayal of the mission of the university itself. Tip number 2, we need to strengthen ourselves and our children with the tools that build healthy communication skills as they go out into the world. I believe Jewish wisdom and its art of sacred arguing provides a powerful framework for us and how we should engage with our differences. In an article entitled Debate in the Jewish Tradition, 9 Ways to Argue But with Respect, Jackie Congito shares a few lessons we can learn from the Jewish art of machloket l'shem shamayim, which means an argument for the sake of heaven. I'll link her article in the description below. Now, I'm not saying that every opinion should be afforded a place at the table, or that a heavenly argument is a direct response to violence. Arguments intended to incite violence, harm, or manipulate others, such as intentionally spreading lies, prejudice, and misinformation, are not heavenly arguments at all. Rabbi Sack teaches us if we want to learn, grow, pursue truth, and find freedom, here's tip number 3. We need to find places and make our homes a place that welcomes arguments and respects different views. I feel immensely proud to be part of a tradition that not only tolerates differences, but actually encourages sincere, humble arguments with others and sees it as a way to reveal the divine truth. In other words, it's never been more important to fearlessly be Jewish. How do you accomplish this in your family? I'd love to hear, because the more we talk about it, the better prepared we will be to take on this challenge. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom.